Hey everyone, Jared here from Wedding Film School, and today we have the opportunity to go behind the scenes into what it takes to second shoot a wedding. Most of the behind the scenes that we've done has been from a lead shooter perspective. And I would probably say that this is less of a how-to second shoot and more of a behind the scenes on how somebody might second shoot. Lead videographers, you all probably have a different idea of what a second shooter role should be, but this is just a way to second shoot. I would say typically when I'm assigning a second shooter or some roles, things that I expect them to do is obviously do some shooting. But in addition to that, I usually expect them to do a lot of the behind the scenes work as well. So things that I would typically have an assistant do, I'll also want my second shooter to be able to do as well. Things like charge batteries, keep me organized, as well as set up for a lot of the events throughout the day, setting up tripods, making sure white balances are correct between all cameras. All those little things that go a long way are really helpful to have the second shooter handle, while your lead shooter is doing a lot of the PR for your team and working with the bride or the groom or the planner or more people. The lead shooter typically has a little bit more social responsibility throughout the day. So some areas that I typically have, and this is typically what I'll tell my couples that the second shooter will do, whether they're considering it as a part of a package or if I'm trying to sell a second shooter to my couples. I add these things on to help them understand the role of a second shooter. The first thing is preparations. The second shooter is typically going to be able to cover a lot more of the other side. So if my lead shooter is most of the time going to be working with a bride, the second shooter can most of the time head over and work with the groom and groomsmen or bride as well. But having two people in two different spots simultaneously tends to be helpful. So this is helpful if the bride wants to see a lot more coverage on the other side. The second thing is going to be an additional camera angle during all of the events. So whether it be your ceremony, toasts, dances, when you're typically shooting multi-camera throughout the day, having that extra videographer just allows more perspective. So if the lead shooter is getting the bride or groom walking down the aisle, the second shooter is shooting the other person react to that person walking down the aisle. And then the third thing is typically during cocktail hour, having another videographer be able to cover cocktail, be able to cover the details at the reception, while the lead shooter is doing some more, maybe some narrative work with the bride and groom or with a wedding party or whatever they're doing. The second shooter can be in a different position at the same time. So those are really the three areas that I think shooting wise, I'd like my second shooter to really focus on. But I don't want to do a whole lot more talking because you came here to watch a video, right? Let's hop in and check it out. So I'm actually here doing some second shooting, which honestly is, I think it's like the most fun job in the world is being a second shooter. I'm gonna be helping our pal Richie. Typically he's always been my second shooter, so roles are a little bit reversed today. Should be really fun. Yeah, and again, the point of today is just to show you how a second shooter operates and kind of what I expect my second shooters to do on a wedding day, what their roles are, maybe some of the kind of tips and tricks to becoming a lead shooter and maybe building your way up to that role as well. So hopefully it's gonna be a really smooth, easy day. Let's go inside, check it out. I really love when my second shooter understands gimbals and can not only set one up, but also go around and get really great location shots. So essentially I can focus on what I need to focus on as a lead shooter, which is the bride, getting shots of them, kind of managing people a little bit more. And then the second shooter can be on his own little island and be filming wherever without really restrictions on time, at least as much as the lead shooter's time is usually restricted. So I brought the Crane 3 Lab from Zhiyun, which I really love. Typically, I don't get to use this gimbal. I'm excited to be able to use it today. Usually, this one can handle a little bit more weight than your typical gimbal, but I really like it. I tend to get really, probably my best shots with this gimbal. So let's set it up and then we'll get some shots. do the gimbal quick drop challenge number 2. This is my first time setting up a gimbal in like 2 or 3 months. So I'm gonna be a little bit slow. This is a very real take. Still really rusty. Let's try to do it. Ready, set, go. Roll is good, all right. Then I have to turn it on, I think. Maybe. Good to go. All right, so we have our gimbal set up. Good to go, feels really great. We're gonna go outside and just get some establishing shots. Okay, so the bride is actually getting ready in room number 1, which is up in this tower, this balcony. So I think just showing off where they're getting ready. So essentially, if you want to hear any of the girls laughing or whatever, maybe you show a shot from outside here first, and then the next shot would be inside, the girls getting ready. So I'm gonna get that shot right now. So typically when I'm thinking about B-roll in general and talking about establishing shots, talking about shots of the venue, I typically like to start kind of farther away and then make my way in closer to some kind of finer details. So I'm gonna try to avoid any kind of cars because A, it's wicked ugly, but then B, it also really dates the film. So we're gonna wanna avoid that. I'm gonna try to block out a lot of it with some foreground, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so I'm trying to find symmetry in my B-roll shots right now. And I'm a little bit frustrated because nothing's really lining up. I can't get in the right spots. Symmetry is pretty important when you're, filming B-roll, because I think, A, it's just good composition, but it really like balances out your shot, makes people feel like they have a sense of stability, I guess, in your shot. So frustrated right now because nothing's really even. So let's walk around and try to find something. So I love second shooting, mainly because you can kind of just focus on the shooting aspect. There's a little less that you have to keep track of. Obviously, you have to know your timeline. You have to know a lot of these things still. But I feel like there's a lot of pressure that's taken off your shoulders where you can focus on having a good time and actually enjoying the work that you're doing and not kind of trying to keep the whole picture together like a lead shooter typically would. So I love any opportunity I get to second shoot because it allows you to focus on your craft a little bit more. Guys, Canadian geese. You Canadians, they do not give you a good name. Worst animal ever invented. Okay, so I think with shooting gimbal, a lot of people like a couple different methods when it comes to focus. So you can obviously do manual focus, you can do autofocus, kind of more continuous focus, maybe area focus. I like continuous autofocus with a small kind of focal point, typically that I put like right in the middle of the frame, because generally I'm shooting somewhere between 2.8 to 5.0 on most of our lenses, especially when I'm shooting people. I really dial that down to like 2.8. So I do like it to be pretty centered because most of my shots, I'm not off-centering my subject typically. Typically I want them to be middle of the frame. So that's typically what I roll with. This gimbal obviously does allow for manual focus, but I found that I'm just not good enough of a gimbal operator to be able to manage getting really great shots while doing manual focus. So generally autofocus can be your friend, even on these Fujifilm X-T4s, which are known to not really have the best autofocus. Now, when I do shoot some shots where I'm getting a little bit of foreground, typically I'll flip over to manual focus so that I can focus on what my main subject is, creep behind maybe some foreground, and then creep out to reveal my subject. It means that you're not going to be focusing on your foreground and maybe your lens is hunting a little bit for that shot. So you want to focus on your subject, go behind the foreground, and then peek out. All right, so got a lot of establishing shots with our gimbal. Now I'm grabbing my handheld camera and pretty much gonna have the same exact setup with this one. Actually, I do wanna put a battery grip on this, but essentially as far as camera body and lens, same exact setup, Fujifilm X-T4, Canon 24 to 70 millimeter glass, which again equates to about a 35 to 110 lens, which I like because it allows me to get those nice wide shots, but then I can also zoom in and get a lot tighter. Has quite a bit of throw. So we like this kind of lens and camera combo. I think it makes a really nice image. I'm going to be attaching this to my holdfast system, which I have on right now, which is typically something that photographers will wear. But I think with handheld shooters like ourselves, they're starting to become a lot more popular because essentially you can have a camera by your side the entire day. Maybe you're making adjustments to your audio, and then when you have to shoot, you know you have to shoot really quick. Having a camera at your hip ready to go is paramount. Okay, so Holdfast actually makes these specialty clips. They're about $30. You can get them on B&H or Holdfast's website. And what they are is they're an extended screw, which allows you to put it on a quick plate from Manfrotto and some other companies as well. So it allows you to attach to a tripod very quickly. So it's a little bit expensive for a little clip, but for us, totally worth it. I would say don't buy these on Amazon. They have some similar products that I've bought before. However, Holdfast is the only one who really makes quality ones that I've seen right now. Maybe now, whenever it is that you're watching this video, they make a more quality one out there. But from what I've found, Holdfast is really the only one making super high quality clips like this. I've bought the ones that are made in China before, and they've broken on me, just fallen straight off of my Holdfast, and which meant I had to send it in for about $800 of repairs to the camera body, to the lens. So make sure you're buying your clips. $30 can save you a lot more money. So we are heading up to film the guys. They are in room 35. So heading upstairs, gonna introduce myself, and yeah, hopefully get some good shots. And I do look pretty good. White pants. Yeah. Okay, so we filmed a little bit of the guys. There wasn't really a whole lot going on up there. Even that space, I didn't really even like it for shooting portraits. So I'll probably aim to get some of the Groom in his really cool Navy outfit. I was thinking somewhere in front of the water. Makes sense, right? So we'll probably grab him at some point. We have so much time. But right now we are gonna do the first look with the bride and with the groom. The bride before then is actually doing a first look with her dad. So we'll film that really quick, and then we'll move on and we'll do the traditional first look. So. Why don't we use this one for the first look? I'll grab the tripod really quick. I do have a handheld on me, so we could do that too. So I'll just set this up Nope. Should not do that. Great dress. They look great. Around this time, it's pretty easy to kind of shoot the same exact thing as your lead is. So me as second, kind of looking at what Richie's doing behind me and thinking how I just can mix it up a little bit, or even if I'm really adding a lot of value. So even instead of shooting the bride and groom, there's a lot of things happening behind the camera. Families looking on, you can get a lot of reaction shots, which I'll probably focus on a little bit more of, which I think is kind of a nice little extra add-on. Okay, so I think really one of the best things about being a second shooter or having a second videographer is while Richie is doing the portraits over there, I can be in here when everything is set up and beautiful and before the guests have arrived and really disheveled everything and messed up all my symmetry again. So I'm gonna get a couple shots in here. The florals in here look amazing. The space looks over there. I'm actually looking at this really cool symmetrical shot with kind of the Newport waterway behind us. So I'll get that before heading back out there and just see what Richie wants me to do once I get back. Again, another thing that's great about having a second videographer is you can get a lot of the shots that a video lead couldn't get. So I'm doing some shots of the placeholders, table holders, tablescapes. What do you call these things? Yeah, place cards, table cards. So I'm taking some video of these because typically by the time I can get to them as a lead, they're already ruffled. People have already gone through and picked their place. Essentially, the way they have these rooms set up right now is people are come through, find out where they're sitting, go to the ceremony, come back out into this space where they're gonna do the cocktail hour, and then they're gonna go back in there. So they're resetting the ceremony space for the reception. So this is gonna be a mess. So filming it right now before guests get here in 20 minutes to half an hour is pretty important. So I'm actually gonna use a light because personally, just seeing this kind of ambient light in here makes me sad. So we're gonna make it a little bit more dramatic. Use this as our base, stop down and use this as our spotlight. We just have a Practilite 602 right here and we'll see what we come up with. So we'll post it up. This is where the ceremony is going to happen. Typically when I'm second shooting, actually I should say when I'm lead shooting, I love when my second videographer is kind of just cleaning up my mess. It sounds terrible, but making sure that we're organized, making sure that me and my business is represented really well, because you know the thing that every other vendor is going to talk about on the wedding day is how much they like you or dislike you. And one of the things that can make a venue especially dislike you is if your stuff's just spread out all over the place. It's a pet peeve of mine. So today what I'm gonna do is once everything is set up in here, I'm gonna spend some time in just hiding our gear
talking to the person in charge on site at the venue to see if our stuff is in the right space, and making sure that we're not just throwing stuff in a heap over here. Everyone here has spent a lot of time to make this space look perfect, and the last thing we want to do is mess that up. So I'm gonna spend some time cleaning this up when we get back in here afterwards. Okay, let's go see what Richie needs outside. Right now where Richie's off shooting the bridesmaids. I'm over here shooting the groomsmen, so we can kind of spread out a little bit more. Just allows us to get more shots of each side. So generally, that's another kind of perk of having a second videographer. It's more shots of the groomsmen. All right, so we just came back from outside, and we are gonna do some setting up for the ceremony. Richie's off to take some video of the family portraits. And something like family portraits, there's really not a lot going on. A lot of times we don't even include a whole lot of coverage from family, but you know, it's your fundamentals. You have to get shots of family. So, you know, especially like, it sounds morbid, but if people die or, you know, just people want to see the people that they care about regardless, and they will ask you about it down the line if they were expecting it. So we always cover it. So Richie's out there getting those basics. I'm in here setting up for the ceremony while that's going on. So essentially you can kill two birds with one stone by doing it that way. So we're gonna set up. But I did want to also mention, again, circle back on the holdfast and kind of why I like to use a holdfast so much. Essentially, I have my hands free because my camera is off to my side. And then the other thing I really like about it is we actually attach an Ona bag. This is, put out by Ona. I think this is called the Bowery bag. Holdfast actually makes their own bags as well. But we really like the Bowery because it's cheaper and they make excellent, excellent bags. So, and in here I will have maybe an extra lens, I have all my audio equipment, I have extra batteries, extra cards, everything that I could need to set up. So instead of carting my entire bag to the ceremony space, I can just have everything in my Ona. So it allows me to be much faster. And you know, when you're shooting a wedding, speed is the name of the game. So let's set up. In terms of a ceremony space, and just how I like to set up is we are gonna have a tripod and we're gonna have two cameras that are gonna be handheld. So what does that do? That means that we only have one camera, essentially that's an ugly camera on sticks. You can use as many tripods as you want, obviously, but generally I find that if we use a lot of tripods, it just looks a little bit more sloppy. And so what I'm gonna try to do is I'm actually gonna tuck it right in here. We have this nice little space that maybe they didn't make for us, but we're definitely gonna make use of. Essentially like a little camera well position. Off to the side in the back. And I'm gonna raise this up probably pretty close to as tall as it gets. If you're looking for more information on how to set up for a ceremony with 2, 3, 4 camera angles, we actually did a whole multi-part series on the issue. So make sure you go back. I'll plug the link up top for you to be able to watch that as well. It's probably gonna go into more details than we'll go into today. So Richie and I are actually shooting a sister company of ours that we own called Merriment Films today. And generally with Merriment Films, it is only one videographer. Today we're lucky, we're doing 2 videographers. But in order to make things as fast as possible when someone is solo shooting, we kind of made this setup where we can essentially attach our gimbal to a tripod and detach it really quickly to allow us the kind of speed that we may need if the bride and groom are going outside and need to, you know, do portraits right after the ceremony. We're not having to break down this camera, put it on a gimbal, balance it. It's essentially, we just pop it off and go. So I have this tripod plate, this quick plate, which actually has a Zhiyun quick mount, which attaches to our gimbal directly. So we're gonna put that on our tripod here. We'll also put a link to this guy below, so if you are interested in buying one for yourself, they're really cheap. I think they're like 20 or 30 bucks, but it just allows us to be really fast. So when I go get my gimbal, okay, so this allows me to detach from the gimbal here, just reattach right here, and we're pretty much good to go. Now with this, if I really wanted to, I could turn my gimbal off and then lock off my angles just to save battery life, which might be kind of a good idea in this case. Not sure how much Richie has left here. My job as a second shooter is not only shooting, but also making sure that Richie is able to do his job really well. So I'm essentially taking the role of an assistant as well as a shooter. Our take on merriment films, when we're shooting a merriment film, is a little bit different when it comes to audio. We are actually rolling with the Rode Wireless Go 2s, which is essentially 2 transmitters, 1 receiver. So we're gonna actually be putting the receiver onto our camera directly so that audio from both transmitters are being captured on our camera. Which is pretty great. The other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be recording a backup microphone of the speaker system as well, just in case. But this is how we set up. So one microphone is going to go on through the speaker system back here. I'll show you how we do that. And then the other one is going to go directly on the Groom. So we'll split it once it's in camera. Yeah, get audio that way. Another thing that I love about these Rode Go 2s is they have internal recording. So even if somehow this gets messed up, we have it recorded straight to our transmitters as well as a backup, just in case. And that way we can isolate our audio sources as well. So pretty fun, pretty cool. These devices are great. Maybe we could put it back here. We're right behind the Better Together sign over there. Yeah, I just threw it right behind the Better Together just to get out. So it's sunny outside. And in this room, they're essentially gonna be super duper duper backlit. We're adding a little bit of front fill with our Practilite 602 to kind of counterbalance that, so we can essentially try to expose for the outside as much as possible and give it a little bit of front fill so that we're evening things out a little bit more and it's a little less silhouetted. We have a couple batteries. We have enough batteries to operate for the full ceremony and then the reception. So we'll probably end up doing this. Just as a backup, this is the H2N that we typically like to have just in case all else fails. We can still get audio that's coming directly out of the DJ's speaker system. I always like to have it no matter what we're running. It's kind of like a backup to a backup to a backup. And it's actually bailed us out in some cases. So H2N, it's a really cheap device compared to a lot of other recorders, which is one of the reasons why we like it. Great little device, and overall pretty durable. So we really like it. So ceremony just ended. They flipped the room. This is now our reception area. Cocktail hour is happening now. So we need to do two things. We need to film some of cocktail hour. We need to film some of the details in here. And then we're gonna be taking the bride and groom out for some photos as well. So a lot of things going on at the same time. Again, it's another reason why having a second videographer is great in these moments where you can kind of cover a little bit of everything while a lot of things are going on. So I'm gonna check in with Richie, my boss, and see what he would like us to be doing. Richie, she just said that they're gonna be taking them out. Figure you could go with them if you want. I'll cover cocktail.
Cool.
I can also get some details after that, cool. After I get some more shots of cocktail. Just kind of go from there. But
right.
lighting in here is kind of brutal, huh?
It is.
It's kind of like that dingy green yellow. I might grab a light and hit a little bit of this. I want to get that too, get that better together sign. I don't know how good these are going to be. I like doing using holdfast for handheld shooting because it provides 3 different points of contact, whether it's my 2 hands and then also this holdfast, which I'm essentially pushing against, trying to create a little bit more stability and less of like a steering wheel type of motion, where if I was doing this, I think I'd be more inclined to do a little bit of more steering wheel stuff, and it just kind of adds a little bit of shake. I always throw image stabilization, internal image stabilization on my camera. So that's what I'm doing right now. If I need to, which I'm kind of doing right now, off the holdfast, generally I'm locking both my elbows almost into my hips so that it's down here and I'm able to use kind of more of my hips to do more rocking back and forth to get some closer up shots. Nothing necessarily world-changing, but it does provide a little bit of movement, which I like. Yeah. And then I guess another aspect is I'm shooting in slow motion. So a lot of the movement that I do, even if I'm doing kind of fast movements like this, still looks okay because I'm just gonna end up slowing it down most likely. So if you've seen some of our videos in the past, you know that we're a big fan of the 602 Practilite, which I'm using in this case to just kind of light some of my subject. Generally, I don't want it to be really obvious that I'm lighting something, but in this case, it just provides a little bit more pop to my subject. So I'm actually gonna show you, in this case, it doesn't necessarily look like it's on. I'll turn it off and on. Just giving it a little bit of fill light to match what is the exposure is outside. And I can change my color a little bit to be a little bit more blue. Okay, so the bride and groom are going outside for some portraits. We're gonna go out and support a little bit before we shoot a little bit of cocktail hour. Generally, I don't like to film too much of cocktail hour. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna follow them, and then support Richie out there. So let's talk about this. This is nice. So Richie is over there shooting some handheld. I want to support with some. These clouds are wild. Like, what makes those ones more blue?
It's just science.
It's science.
You don't know science? Idiot.
Why do you think I went into videography? I'm angry. This is videographer anger. The gimbal always dies right when you need it the most. I was kind of playing with fire a little bit, but got my backup. Probably not the first wedding gimbal has died. Probably not gonna be the last, to be honest. So yeah, we were able to get quite a bit, actually. I'm pretty happy. I'm gonna switch out the gimbal batteries, shoot a little bit of cocktail. Well, right now, we're drinking Coca-Cola, who's not a sponsor. But bride and groom are about to come in 5 minutes into the reception to be introduced. And we're gonna be filming first dance, and they're gonna go straight into 2 toasts. So after that, we'll probably get out of here, myself and Caleb behind the camera, and yeah, kind of go from there. So yeah, in terms of coverage, if this is our wide, you're just gonna be handheld, like here or over there.
Yeah,
Where do you want to be?
I mean, as they're walking in,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here.
Okay. So maybe I could be over there and just kind of get faces, unless you wanted me over here.
When they're dancing, I'm probably just gonna move around with them all
Go there. Okay.
and all
Cool.
that jazz.
You know what? And I'll try to stay off to the side and not get in your shot.
Okay.
And I'll try to get some moving shots, like on the sides, maybe with like some foreground,
So,
like people.
with the wide here.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I stay over here and I try to get some like people foreground, maybe even over here too.
All right.
If you're facing that way, maybe I go on this side.
Cool.
I just don't want to be in the photographer shot too, so I'll check in with her.
All right.
Batteries in here. I think there's 4. They're fully charged. I think that's it. I'll let you take this guy home. I packed mine with everything that I brought. Besides that, I think your stuff's back there. The tripod bag is back there.
Cool.
I think that's it,
Is
man.
that Jared reach, or is it like?
I think it might be a little bit of Jared reach, to be honest. Yeah, you might have to dig back there. Okay, so that's a wrap on today's wedding. I think it went really well. Richie has the rest of the night. I think it's just open dance floor at this point. So he's gonna be filming the rest of the night. We're gonna take off. Hopefully this has been a great learning experience for you, whether you're a second shooter, whether you're a lead shooter, looking for a resource to give to your second shooters. And I want to know if we miss anything. So if you see anything that you really like your second shooters to be doing on a wedding day, make sure you comment below, guys. Give this video a like if you learned something along the way. We'll see you next time here on Wedding Film School.
This is not where you belong. Taking out a step and run.
Okay, so hopefully that was informative to you. Hopefully you can take this video to your second shooter and say, hey, watch this video, see if there's something you can take away from it. This is how I like to operate differently than what Stop Go Love does. But these are some tenets that you can definitely take into the wedding day. I know for myself, it's always the hardest thing to do is finding time to train your people. So hopefully this can be a little bit of a training video potentially for you. Anyways, guys, make sure you're subscribing to Wedding Film School if you haven't already. If you've made it this far in the video, you probably like us a little bit. Do us a favor, hit the like button, do all the YouTube-y things. It's super helpful to us and obviously the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you're checking out the Wedding Film School Facebook page. Super active group community where you can ask questions and have them answered by the whole group. As well as make sure you're checking out the Wedding Film School show, which is our bi-weekly podcast where we go through a lot of business ideas and kind of more longer form freestyle conversation between myself, Jason, Bobby every once in a while. And hopefully you're having a fantastic day. We'll see you on the next video.